What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So for the last several years, I've been saying we need to pay attention to a certain company who is making a ton of studio and intellectual property acquisitions. Well, yesterday they made one that was a bit too splashy, and now everyone's paying attention to Embracer Group as they have cut a deal now to acquire several studios and even intellectual properties, which includes Tomb Raider, from Square Enix. We're going to go over that one here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a big Nintendo Switch sale that has gone live for Golden Week, includes Square Enix and Nice America. And we're also going to be taking a look at the initial sales numbers for Switch Sports, as it looks like it's off to a fast start. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps that a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below and ring that notification bell so you can keep up to date with all the uploads here on the channel. And we're going to start today with PlayStation Now games for the month of May. This is pretty much the last month for games with this service before it gets merged into the new PlayStation Plus premium tier. We can see this posted up, a nice little image over on PlayStation blog. The 3 titles that are now available includes Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, Soul Calibur 6, and Blasphemous. Now, these games have already been out for a while. Obviously, that's what they do with PlayStation Now. They just kind of add in games that really are just there to hold up and bolster the library. Nothing brand new day one like we have with Shadow Warrior 3, but like Soul Calibur 6, sure, it's a fun game. I did like Blasphemous. That's pretty good there, and Naruto fans can check out Ninja Storm 4, but really this is just to point out the fact that this is the last month for the service they have now with PlayStation Now, and in fact, they outline that at the bottom of this posting, mentioning that you will have changes to your PlayStation Now membership starting next month. I know in certain regions, the new service with PlayStation Plus tiers will go live actually like the 3rd week of May, so we're getting pretty close, which tells me we should also be finding out a bit more around the selection of titles for the retro library with that premium tier. We'll have to keep an eye out. Also, we've been talking about the chip shortage and the effect that it's having on these different consoles, like the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X, and the Switch, and the availability in stores or just online. Well, now it looks like the chip shortage could actually be going into 2024. This from Intel CEO. We can see this posted up over on CNBC from Pat Gelsinger. Says that's part of the reasons that we believe the overall semiconductor shortage will now drift into 2024 from our earlier estimates in 2023, just because the shortages have now hit equipment and some of those factory ramps will be more challenged, which is something to consider here. The machines in the factories creating some of the chips and stuff would be affected by that chip shortage. So it's a whole thing with just getting supply out there, right? We talked about supply chains. We're talking about the chip shortage, and it all just comes down to it's going to be more difficult still going forward into 2024 for the companies to just produce these different game consoles or video cards or so on there. So yeah, unfortunately, it looks like things won't be getting that much better next year. We're going to be pretty far into the PS5 and the Xbox Series X life before we start seeing them show up in stores on shelves. Also, here's something pretty fun if you're looking to maybe change up your Xbox background to something a bit more nostalgic. Take a look at this over on Reddit. I'll link this down in the sources if you want to go ahead and grab these and kind of customize your Xbox a bit there. These are Xbox 360 Blade style backgrounds for your Xbox One and Series consoles. If you apply this, yes, it's just a background, but it kind of looks like you're on the tab for, say, the marketplace or like the media center section of the Blade system. Remember, you would go through them. It would change different colors, and I'm looking at that orange one. I think I might try that out just to get a bit of a blast from the past with really an OS that I did like quite a bit. As they went on with the 360, I think it just got slower and even less visually appealing. So yeah, I'll probably go ahead and apply this at least for a day just to remember the good old days of the Xbox 360. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the big news that's taken place, and that is that Embracer Group has cut a deal with Square Enix to take several of their Western studios off of their hands, along with a bundle of IPs. Let's head over here to gamesindustry.biz. They say Embracer acquires Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, and Square Enix Montreal for $300 million. And it includes several intellectual properties, mostly headlined by Tomb Raider, but also Deus Ex, Thief. I saw Gex was thrown in there, Legacy of Kain, I think even Sleeping Dogs. Like I said, it's a ton of intellectual properties. I'm curious to see the list. I haven't really been able to find exactly the back catalog of titles outlined line by line, but it looks like quite a few that haven't really done a lot recently are thrown in there, which we'll get to that in a second, because if you're someone hoping to see remasters, you might be in luck here with Embracer Group. But they go on to say Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal will be part of the growing publisher, along with around 1,100 staff across the 3 developers spread across 8 locations around the world. The deal is expected to close sometime between July and September of this year, so we're still many months off of this closing and seeing Embracer Group maybe start to work on some of these older titles to bring them up. And that's the biggest thing here, is getting some of these older intellectual properties for Embracer Group. I expect them to do things like remasters. They've done this a lot. Think of like Sphinx. That was Embracer Group. They said, hey, wow, we have this intellectual property that's kind of old. Let's remaster it, clean it up a bit, and just put it out there for people to check out now on current platforms. So you think back to like the older Deus Ex games, Thief. I would love to see something with Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver. That would be really cool to see that. At least just even a remaster. You could also see Embracer Group look at these intellectual properties and say, hey, we need a brand new game in the series. Let's try it out and see what happens. Remember, they're the ones with Free Radical bringing back Time Splitters. So you never know with Embracer Group. They seem to really like some of the nostalgic intellectual properties, trying to make them more current now. But Square did also give a statement as to why they sold off these studios and intellectual properties for $300 million. This is an all-cash deal from what I'm seeing, and it doesn't include like any debt or anything from Square. I saw that kind of going around. This basically means that $300 million is going to go to Square. Square is going to then hand over assets to Embracer Group. Not like, oh, debt's gonna go back and forth, nothing there. But we can see Square and their reasoning for this, saying the transaction will assist the company in adapting to the changes underway in the global business environment by establishing a more efficient allocation of resources, which will enhance corporate value by accelerating growth in the company's core businesses in the digital entertainment domain. In addition, the transaction enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud. So there you have it. They sold off Tomb Raider and these different studios so they can fund their ambitions in blockchain technology. Well, they could also be kind of saying that to appear like they are getting ahead of the curve, maybe for some sort of acquisition coming up. I kind of think Square may be consolidating, becoming a more efficient looking company so that they can be more appealing to get bought out. I covered that a bit more on the second channel. Make sure you go check that out there. But I saw a lot of people curious about that price. Like, wow, $300 million, that doesn't seem like a lot. And to be honest, looking at this, a lot of the staff that's going along here, 1,100 different staff members, developers, these different studios, that's expensive. In fact, if you take a look here at the profit margin from Crystal Dynamics, it's not much of anything. Like, that's the biggest part here. I don't think people realize this, and I didn't even think about it until it was outlined by people like Daniel Ahmed on Twitter. We're talking razor thin, like 2.5%, 3% maybe, and then I think like Eidos Montreal was basically zero. So you have a ton of developers that are going to be basically sent over to Embracer Group or whoever wanted to buy it. Is that a good thing to raise your expenses that much? And is that something that can be worked in the deal with those intellectual properties and having that all cash amount come down? So that's one of the reasons I do think that price initially look at it, you're like, wow, just $300 million. Well, a lot of expenses are coming off the books for Square, and they've actually been trying to sell off like these Western studios and basically their entire Western division for a while now from what I've gathered. So this may be a bit of desperation for Square, especially if they are looking for a buyout. But I mean, that's pretty good for Embracer Group to get all of this for $300 million, because take a look at their studio lineup here with all their subsidiaries. They have a lot going on. They have over 14,000 employees when this deal goes through, and apparently they have like 230 projects ongoing, 30 of which minimum are like AAA budget, whatever that actually means, right? But basically they have 30 more expensive projects ongoing and a ton of stuff, to the point where I wouldn't be shocked if in a few years we just see a game coming out of Embracer Group like every month, maybe even every 2 weeks. I mean, now they control Tomb Raider, and Tomb Raider is still a popular franchise. They did go over a lot of the sales numbers, trying to pump everything up, like, look at this awesome deal that we got, where Tomb Raider, the most recent rebooted trilogy, was over 38 million sold between those 3 titles. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, unfortunately, not as good as the other two, so it's sort of on a downtrend now, but that also is like 9 million copies sold, with the first 4.25 or so coming in the first 4 months of it being on sale, which I would assume are basically full price sales there. So yeah, I think Tomb Raider is still valuable. There was just a lot of expenses that went along with it, so that all cash value probably came down a bit once that was being pointed out that, yeah, you guys are gonna be saving a lot of money doing this, and we're gonna hand you $300 million all cash. But guys, I've said it before, and I'm sure I'll be saying it many more times, keep an eye on Embracer Group, aka THQ Nordic, because it sounds like they still have more money to spend on acquisitions, and I think they're going to be doing that as we go along here, and they will come up in the news for it. But wow, I didn't even see this one coming. We have Embracer Group showing up with $300 million, getting really all of Square's Western studios, along with several of their intellectual properties, one of them being Tomb Raider. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo Switch Sports and the UK sales charts. This gives us our first indication as to how Switch Sports is doing in its debut week, which we can see the top 10. Starting with Nintendo Switch Sports, it was indeed the best-selling game of the week. Now, they did compare this over at GamesIndustry.biz to other different Wii Sports titles, and it was the third biggest UK launch for the franchise behind Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. That makes sense. I mean, the Wii itself was kind of known for Wii Sports, so when Wii Sports Resort comes out, it makes sense that it would do really, really well there. And then they went ahead and compared it to many of the party games. That did include Wii Sports Club on Wii U, which it did significantly better. We would expect that. It's Wii Sports on the Wii U. But then we have things like Mario Party Superstars, where Switch Sports sold double that amount, and then 8 times the amount of Just Dance 2022. At number 2, we do have Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Gran Turismo 7 made a pretty big jump into the top 10 from number 11 to 3, about 150% up. Seems to have to do with PlayStation 5's coming back in stock. Same deal with number 4, Horizon Forbidden West. This is one of the reasons I don't think Sony is going to be lowering that $70 price, like put these things on sale anytime soon, because every time PS5s come in stock, these games jump up the sales charts. Then you have Pokemon Legends Arceus at 5, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at 6, because why not? Elden Ring at 7, Grand Theft Auto 5 at 8, because why not? And then Kirby and the Forgotten Lands and Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I'm not too surprised to see Switch Sports top the sales charts in the UK. It'll probably be doing that other places as well. It has that mainstream appeal to it, and yeah, it probably reminds people a lot of the Wii, which isn't a bad thing necessarily for the mainstream who really liked Wii Sports. Then they see bowling on the Switch. They're like, well, I guess I'll pick that up, and who knows, maybe even a Switch. So I think this will be a strong seller for Nintendo throughout the second half of the Switch's life, and we'll just continue to see how it does. We won't find out from Nintendo actual hard sales numbers for like 4 months or so since it launched in the new fiscal quarter, but I'll keep an eye on it. Next up, let's talk about Golden Week, as there are more companies participating in the sales on the Switch. We can head over here. This is the sales and deals page for Nintendo that I'll leave linked down below, but we can see Square Enix is now taking part in this. It's already live with their sales. It will be running until midnight on May 11th, but you can immediately see all the different Final Fantasies are on sale. They include 7, 9, 8, 10, 10, 2, 12. All of them are 50% off, and you really can't go wrong with any of them. I'm going to go ahead and just recommend Final Fantasy 12 because I still think that's one that not enough people have played. But hey, 10 and 10-2 HD Remaster, technically get 2 games there for the price of one. Then you have Neo, The World Ends With You, 50% off, good pickup there. Legend of Mana, that one's 30% off. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered at 60% off. Star Ocean, The First Departure are at 60% off. Wow, that's under $9 for that one. Definitely a good pickup on that. Balan Wonderworld, 70% off. Not a bad time to buy, Sean, if you want to keep your copy sealed for future collector's value there. Trials of Mana, 50% off down to $25. I really enjoyed that game. I think it's worth a pickup at that price. But I think the sale to check out is certainly from Nice America with their Golden Week sale. It's already underway and it's running until May 8th, so not a lot of time, about a week or so to check this one out. But I started looking up and down the titles, and there are some really good JRPGs in here. Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 3 at $30, which, by the way, I'm starting up Legends of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. I keep looking at these, and I have a couple of them. It's just, I know it's a massive, massive time sink to get into it, but I think I'm finally ready to like casually go through these, so I'm starting them up. Then we have Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 at $35. Ys 8, really enjoyed this game, $20, absolute steal. I also like Ys 9, Monstrum Nox at $40. And then we have a bunch of Disgaea games. If you've ever been curious, this is a good time to pick them up. Disgaea 1 Complete at $20, Disgaea 4 Complete Plus at $20, Disgaea 5 at $20, and Disgaea 6, we have that at $40. And if you've ever been curious about making your own RPG on your Switch, RPG Maker MV is on sale at $25. So certainly some really good deals in there for Golden Week as more and more companies and publishers are taking part in it. Certainly though, check out that Nice America sale. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're gonna take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked which Square Enix IP would you like to see revived with Embracer Group? Soul Reaver at 27%, Gex at 31%. Look at that, Deus Ex 33%. Thief coming in with 9%. Kind of expected. I was curious between Deus Ex and Soul Reaver. Gex, I think people would just like to see what would happen if Gex came back, since it is kind of a meme online, but yeah, I can get behind like the Deus Ex franchise coming back, but I don't know, something about having like Soul Reaver, just Legacy of Kain making a return now, I would be very interested to see how that one would sell and how many people even remember it from back in the day. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Daniel saying, quadruple A industry has become so big/risky, the companies are jumping out of the business. The sooner they can sell their studios and IP, the better. I think you're gonna see more and more safe picks and development as we go along here. I mean, sequels, sure, that and using the big brand names to sell some of these games, but like, the gaming industry, it is becoming very expensive to make some of these games to where you don't even realize, wow, wait, the Tomb Raider games that were coming out and they sold 38 million, all this stuff, but then Crystal Dynamics was only like 2 or 3% when it comes to profit margin. Yeah, these titles just, they cost so much to make. So really it comes down to just evaluating cost and expenses and figuring out how you can make it more cost effective to create these titles. Unreal Engine 5 has been talking about, like with Epic, about that being something that will help, but we'll see about that one. But yeah, we may see a game sell really well, 8-9 million copies, but then the company comes out and says they're disappointed, and it's probably because it cost them a ton of money. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike, leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today, where there's Embracer Group coming in, buying up basically all of Square's Western studios and intellectual properties like Tomb Raider. Did that one surprise you? And did the $300 million sale price surprise you? And then also, what about Golden Week sales going on right now for the Switch? Of course, leave some suggestions down below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.